think Education Elements has helped our district develop a common language and focus for our students. It's just so important that everyone be on the same page.
Developing a common language within our school is going to help us be able to speak more efficiently and effectively to help students. I think having that the common language that we're going to speak when we come to data teams, when we come to a meeting, anything that we can help to grow our students and be able to speak openly with each other and collaborating in that respect, common language is going to be the key to be more efficient in those areas.
So I think developing a common language within it will help our school because our teachers, our administration, our assistants, everybody within the building will be using that same common language. And then anything more efficiently like a common language within a building, whether you're having coaching conversations or whether you're talking with students directly, helps, goes to the bottom line of students and helps them produce more efficient work, more efficient, work in the classroom. And so starting at the top, any common language that we start to filter down helps everything, helps the system, helps the building, helps processes, procedures, everything become more efficient. So really, ultimately, it comes down to the students and then what we're doing for the students to make them more efficient learners and help achievement in the end.
While developing a common language across the district is going to help us bring together all of our goals into one common goal to help us be more effective as an organization.
So for our district, developing a common language is really important so that communication is consistent from the district level all the way to the classroom level. What we want is to have everyone as part of the team, everyone on the same page, and we want to make sure that we're speaking using the same terminology and having the same language. And so we're aligning our resources and everything is not so divided and that, well, this group says what they're doing something different at the school over here, or the district office said one thing, but what we feel like we need to be doing is something else. We want to develop a common language that all of us are speaking the same language and we have a consistent stream of communication from the district to the classroom level.
I think developing a common language just makes us all more efficient. It helps set expectations, and it just really alleviates the miscommunication that can come with not everyone being on the same page or not everyone understanding. So I just think it just makes us more efficient, helps us better focus on the work and to know what we're working toward.
So I think that developing a common language is important to our district so that we can marshal our district resources for all of our schools. And when all of our schools are thinking in the same direction, talking the same language, again, then that helps us communicate with everybody on the same level.
All right, we have really enjoyed implementing responsive practices. It's not been the easiest thing, but it has been great for our staff. And when we go to a meeting, we look for ways to make it the most efficient and effective that we can. And I feel like using some common language of this is how we're going to start our meeting. We're going to define the work. We're going to own who's going to do the work and who's going to present it. And then we also have follow-up that's been planned at the meeting time. Has really changed our meetings and it's really made it to where, I tell my teachers, you're working really, really hard. Now let's just work smarter. And I think this is a way for us to work smarter. And it's nice on year 2 to see my teachers doing this on their own for grade level meetings. And almost every meeting we have at school has some format of the responsive practices, which is it just warms my heart.
I think having a common language in our district is a way to help our school because I think about consistency. So when we have that common language, whether we're in a school level meeting or we're in a district meeting, we know what the agenda is going to be, we know what the format is going to be in, and we can better prepare ahead of time knowing that.
Developing a common language in our district ensures that our work with students and that common goal of increasing student achievement across our district is more effective and more efficient.
I think it's important for our district to be able to develop that common language and have a framework to pass that language from the central office or the director of schools or the principal in a building, down to the teacher level, the employee level at the buildings, to make sure that that message is the same from wherever it came from, and it's sent in the same way to make sure that everyone understands the message, the communication, whatever we're talking about. Maybe it's an integration of some new product in our district. Having that common language and the ability to carry out common meetings the same way is very important for our district, for understanding what the message was meant to be in the beginning.
What I've seen across the district is that the common language has been seen in all of the schools. So when I go to a meeting at Burke's or whether I go to a meeting at Allgood Elementary, there is a common language being used. So the thread that we have sewn into this system has become a familiar system for everyone. And that's what I'm enjoying seeing as everyone begins to start utilizing this common language of responsive practices.
I think that using the responsive practices framework's been good for us. It helps us to keep our eye on making decisions, and it's really helped us with follow through when we've made decisions, then going out to the school buildings and following through with the different things that we've decided and talking to everybody and just making sure that the things that we do get done.
Right. Responsive practices has really changed our whole dynamic at our school, and we get a lot more done at meetings than we've ever done before. We get a lot of people involved. Every faculty meeting, there's at least 2 or 3 other staff members that are involved. It's not just me relaying information. I think also it has allowed teachers that maybe weren't natural born leaders among their co-workers to kind of step up and know they have something to share. And sharing 5 minutes or 10 minutes at a faculty meeting is very easy for them to do at first. And then so there's several meetings that I'm not much leading it at all. I'm just facilitating my teachers to share the great things they're already doing.
Positives that I've seen by using the responsive practices framework, again, going back to that consistency, we're able to be more effective when we have our building level admin meetings. We are more prepared and we know what we want to share out when we come to our district level meetings, and it just helps everybody to be on the same page.
Using the responsive practices framework has really made our work together become more efficient, more focused on our goals, and it allows everyone to leave the table feeling like their voices have been heard and they know what the next steps are.
Our use of the responsive practices framework for us began last year, so we're in year 2 of the integration of responsive practices with education elements. In year 1, we concentrated on the supervisor team, and we pulled in some admins from across the district to start the work. And then year 2, we've pulled in every head principal and assistant principal and learning coach in Putnam County. The importance of the work in year 1, we saw immediate changes in our supervisor group in the way we carried out meetings and the way we dispersed information and made decisions together as a team. Creating that psychological safety for all of our team was important for them to be involved in the decision-making process during and after our supervisor meetings. And also the follow-through is one thing that we were looking for from the very beginning in researching this work with education elements. Creating the opportunity to follow through on our integrations and all of the things that we're doing in our district that require good communication. The responsive practices work has definitely provided that for us, giving that meeting template that we can keep information in one place, and the ability for our employees to get back to that information when they need to has been priceless for our district, and will create again that common language that we can talk to each other across the district, whether you're a central office employee, a principal, assistant principal, employee at a school, or a teacher at a school. Providing that common language and framework for us to be able to communicate and then follow up that communication months later, so we make sure we reach the goals that we set for ourselves as time goes on, has been just something to see that work in our district and in a school building has been phenomenal thus far, and we're just beginning this work.
The positives that I have seen is that there has been intentional planning for meetings using the agendas from at Elements. The other thing that I've seen is that in building those agendas, I also know that there's shared team learning going on, because that is evident when you're in these meetings. The other thing that I've seen is that the meetings in general have been improved. As someone that started going to data team meetings across the county last year and going to those same meetings again this year, it has excited me tremendously to see the growth that has been made because of the planning, the shared team learning, and the meetings then naturally have improved. They've improved because the meetings are more focused. There's more intentional conversations going back to the common language that's being used across the county, and there's more deliberate actions being made. So when you go from one meeting to the next, it has amazed me to see the improvements in this system because of responsive practices. And I can only assume that because of these responsive practices that we're utilizing, the growth that I've seen from one year to the next is going to spill over into our school system and the teachers and what we're doing to be intentional and deliberate to improve our achievement in the school system.
Some of the positives we've seen in our district when using education elements has been more of a focus with our leadership team and also our school teams also focusing on data to make informed decisions.
The positives that we've seen using the responsive practice framework at our school has been the fact that all people feel like they have a voice, and within a meeting they feel like they're heard. I think the check-in and the check-out kind of helps us to do that. Also, it helps my admin team and I to make sure that we have put the pre-work in, that we're very focused, so that way when we're there we're efficient, and really getting down to the meat of our reason for our meeting. So the fact that the teachers are feeling like they have the voice to be able to get involved in the conversation too has been two big things that we can take away from responsive practices.
So the positives for the responsive framework, one of the main one is the action at the end. The thing about the agenda and setting that up, it automatically holds somebody accountable at the end of the day, and there's a time frame within that accountability. So whatever decisions, whatever processes you have in place, whatever you decide at the end of the day, there's accountability piece of who's responsible for that, and there's a time frame from when that's going to be completed. And you know, the pre-work for an agenda or for a meeting is also important. We're not spending time during the meeting talking about who's going to do what. All that stuff is taken care of at the beginning, and so it makes those meetings more efficient. And then again, you have an accountability piece at the end and a framework that everybody who was attached to that meeting or that agenda knows this person's accountable for this at this time.
One of the most positive things that I've seen, most exciting things that I've seen with our district using responsive practices is all of us coming together as one collective unit to carry out our mission and vision across our district.
We've been using the responsive practices framework at the district level now for almost 18 months. And what we have seen is a huge shift in the amount of time that we spend in meetings. We spend more time on the front end planning and preparing for meetings, much like a classroom teacher would do with a lesson plan. You spend time in the prep work, but then when we get to the actual meat of the meetings, we're much more focused, much more productive. We're making decisions. So we've gone from having a 2.5 to 3 hour meeting that just kind of drags on, and we talk and we have a lot of good, rich conversation, but nothing really came out of the meeting. With responsive practices, we've cut that meeting time to where we're only meeting for an hour, hour and a half. It's a focused meeting. We're making decisions. We're assigning people to, when we make a decision, assigning a person to own the next steps, what we need to do, creating the next steps, and then creating follow through to go back and make sure that what we talked about doing, what we want to see happening and need to happen, actually does happen. So responsive practices has made a huge shift for us at the district level in being more focused and cutting down the amount of time we're spending just kind of useless wasted time.
Responsive practices has really helped us focus on our goals and not have too many goals. Sometimes if we have too many goals, it's hard to really give each individual goal that we're working on the due diligence it deserves. It helps keep us focused and helps us really revisit the work and hold us accountable to making sure we're doing what we say we're going to do, aligned to our goals.
Because our director has started implementing the responsive practices with his team, and now that team has also spilled over into our other admins across the county, there's a natural transgression that will spill over into our students. The way that I see students improving in the school system because of all of these efforts is because of these meetings that have now become more focused and intentional. When you sit in the meeting, you hear that common language, you hear conversations that are very specific to the student. Now remember, I'm looking at data team meetings, but what I'm hearing when we bring up a student's name is, what are their grades? Is there behavior? Is there a situation with the family? Is there social emotional? The conversations are so intentional and deliberate. I don't know how we won't be able to see the growth and achievement that we need for these students, because the team does not have to guess at what the problems are or could be. I see this as a benefit for all of us. I see this as a benefit for Putnam County. I appreciate so much the efforts of Kelly and Jason. I most definitely appreciate the fact that Mr. King accepted the responsive practices as it was and shared that with all of us.
The benefit to our district, the benefit to our students, because everything we do is about the students. It's student focused. Student outcome, student achievement. Our ultimate goal is making sure that our students are going to be successful when they leave our classrooms. If they're leaving a second grade classroom, to be successful when they get to the third grade. When they're leaving a third grade, successful in the fourth grade, and so on. Ultimately, when a student is graduating and leaving our system, whether they're going directly into the workforce, college, university, TCAT, junior college, we want students to have the skills to be prepared, the necessary skills that they're prepared to be successful when they leave us. So having consistent communication, it's all about aligning resources, making sure again that we're giving teachers the support they need for our student success, giving administrators the support that they need to support our teachers, and making sure that the communication, the message we're sending from the district office is the same that the classroom teachers are receiving, and that's that we're focused on student success and student achievement, student outcomes, so that our students ultimately are prepared. So we want to provide a consistent stream of communication from the district office to the classroom level, so our students are ultimately being prepared to be successful when they leave and move to the next level.
I think our students will benefit by, our directors' thoughts and the things that we're trying to do as a district. That's going to get down all the way down to the teacher level, which will then deliver to the student level, and that's going to help us make gains as an entire county.
I think at the base of everything we do, we have to think of the student first. So the student is at the center of every decision we make. So benefits for the student with this responsive practices training for our admins all the way down to the teacher level will give us the opportunity, whatever integration or whatever we bring into this district, whatever the topic may be, if everyone understands it better along the chain, you're only as good as your weakest link. So we're trying to strengthen the links of the chain in everything that we do in Putnam County. And we all know communication is the center of all of that. So strengthening that communication is going to help us district-wide to make more value out of everything that we do, every product that we bring into Putnam County to use with students. Strengthening that communication is going to make us stronger as a district.
Students directly benefit from clear communication throughout the district, because when that happens, teachers are clear and focused on what their work should be in the classroom, and students will inevitably benefit.
I think our students are going to benefit from our use with education elements and responsive practices because it's really put a focus back on the students and in the classrooms and what our teachers really need to work on. It's also helped with communication from the teacher to the principal to the district leadership team. And I think that's just so important, and we're going to see student achievement really increase this year.
So some benefits for our students would be knowing what is expected from the top down. When we think about our students right now, there are so many things that are inconsistent. The school year itself is inconsistent in a lot of ways just because with the COVID numbers and the sicknesses that we've had and not knowing if we're going to be in person, if we're going to have to go remote. So just they have a lot of inconsistencies in their lives already. And I feel like having that consistency with using a framework that Mr. King is going to use, our principal is going to use, our assistant principals are going to use, and even their teachers are going to be more familiar with that, and they're going to be using that same framework themselves. It helps the kids to be more stable. They feel like everything is more consistent for them.
Communication is always something that, I've been in admin like 12 years now, and we've always struggled at communication, and I think the responsive practices puts all the information in one area. And so where teachers, if they want to look for something, they know where to find it. I think it's easy to share with district personnel to kind of get, so we can have some dialogue about what's happening at our school, and what's working and what's not working, and get some support on that. And I know for grade level meetings, the meeting format has really helped me to be able to not necessarily be at all their meetings, but feel like I'm there and able to give feedback, and also take what's happening in their grade level meetings and address it as a grade level or as a whole school if we need to.
I think having alignment from the top down is very important. It shares the same vision, what's important to us as a community and what's important to us as a school system. And you hear the words collective efficacy quite often, and that's just all of us working together. But seeing that come from the top down and knowing what those goals are that we're trying to target and how we're moving forward and bettering our school system and our students and our faculty and staff, it's really a special thing to see when we're all swim in the same direction. And I really think that starts with the top-down leadership.
I think one of the best ways our students are going to benefit from our team using responsive practices is that we're not working in silos anymore. Everybody is one collective unit working toward working for the better of our students. And if we're all walking side by side, step by step, with our mission and vision, our students will ultimately benefit from that.
Communicating the message from our director all the way to our teachers to the other employees within our building is very important because it helps us to create a seamless line from across district if our students were to move from school to school, or just being able to make sure that when we collaborate with people from different schools too, to help better strengthen us as educators, and in the end helps us to make sure that we're getting the best education we can for our students.
So I believe the students will benefit because, going back to the common language piece, we all have a common language. And so we're not trying to guess or interpret what everybody means when they're using similar words. We all use the same language. It all means the same thing to students, to teachers, to staff members, to the director. So having that common language, speaking that common language, makes things more efficient, and we all know we're not trying to second guess each other on what we mean. This is what we decided for the common language, and so we're using that, and everybody knows what that means.
As we've been going through the responsive practices framework and we talk about these aha moments, a big one for me, and I think for a lot of our supervisor staff, was when we had a meeting audit. And in the meeting audit, the particular meeting that was audited, we spent 2.5 hours in that meeting. Not a single decision was made. We didn't have an action plan. We didn't have a follow-up plan. We had very rich discussion in that meeting about concerns that we might have, things that are going on, things that we need to do, but there was no actual decision made. There was no one assigned responsibility for that decision. There was no action plan put into place and no follow-through. So that was a huge aha for me and for our district leaders, that we're wasting a lot of time and getting nowhere. And as we have gone through the responsive practices framework, and we've refined our processes and gotten more effective with this, we feel like now our meetings again are more focused, we're more effective, we're assigning responsibilities, we're taking ownership of those, and again, just streamlining the results. And hopefully we're going to see that in communication across the district. We're going to see that in our student success and our student outcomes, as we're aligning our programs, making sure that our curriculum resources and supports for teachers and students are aligned. We're going to see the students achieve greater success than what we've seen in the past.
So the biggest aha moment I think that we've perceived from using the responsive practices has just been the way that the teachers feel more value. They have communicated that to me throughout the course of this year as we've been implementing it, that they feel that their voices are being heard and that they have an open space. So to me, that is a huge win for us and for our school, because teachers are getting that buy-in, and we're sharing with that leadership to create a better school for our students.
One of the biggest aha moments goes back to the agenda piece, and just the more efficient way that, when I used to design agendas for team leader meetings, they were very similar in the fact, but the pre-work wasn't there. And so with responsive practices, the pre-work's there, and now we have an end piece, an action piece that actually holds people accountable. And again, had that before, but this kind of cleans it up a little bit and has a timeline attached to it. So a lot of the pre-work within an agenda, a lot of the pre-work within meetings, and then the end result, which is you have a meeting, make decisions, and then who's going to follow up on those decisions and who's accountable for the follow-up, or ultimately that end decision.
One of the aha moments that I've seen personally, just walking through the responsive practice experience, is bringing to light the work that we need to do and the work that needs to be done, and then also the importance of everybody working collectively as one single unit to accomplish our mission, our vision.
I guess one of the aha moments that I would take away from responsive practices is really defining the work that needs to be done, and then best suiting the people that have the skill sets and talents to help do that work. And we've always really known that, but it doesn't necessarily have to go along with a job title. It can go along with skill sets, and that goes hand in hand with shared leadership, shared ownership, and just once again building a collective effort to achieving our goals.
I think we were surprised right off the bat at our first meeting audit that we spend a lot of time discussing things and maybe not coming to a consensus or not making a decision on those things. So I look forward to that being better using responsive practices.
I think there's been a lot of aha moments in the responsive practice process, but one of the biggest ones for me is to kind of do I asked teachers to backwards plan their lessons, take the assessment and go back to the standards and then plan the lesson, but I wasn't doing that with big jobs. So actually defining the work and then deciding which people, their strengths could help do the work as a whole has been a huge aha for us. Still something I'm having to retrain my brain to think about, but excited for, I think it's going to be a great thing.
So aha moments for me, personally, sometimes I don't always use an agenda, or I don't always have a plan. I'm sometimes in my personal life a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. But having this agenda and knowing what we're going to do, defining the work, and being able to have the agenda come together, have our talking points, and have that decision-making piece of that agenda that we know we're going to do helps us to be able to not only define the work, but actually put action steps to completing that work. So I guess that would be an aha moment for me, is just seeing that putting things into actionable steps is going to see more productivity than not having those things defined out.
The aha moment for me in responsive practices is when I realized that this framework is not one more thing that is being added to our plates, but it literally makes our job, any job that we have to do, more efficient. It can be utilized in any project, any challenge. that you have. And it is just a way to keep us more focused.
I think the aha moment for me has been using the responsive practices work with our own team in the VITAL program, giving us the ability to share information at the district level, state level, federal level, whatever the information coming down the pike might be, to share that information out in a way that we can have a framework to share the information the same as it was given to us in the very beginning through several meetings, and share that out the same way with everybody, and then giving our staff the ability to get back to that information when they need to in an easy way instead of having to search for it over time. And then the main thing for me is having that follow through, to look at our work 6 months down the road and see if we have reached our goals, and if we're not, be able to adapt along the way to change our focus and change our message if need be, to make sure that we're reaching that final goal of whatever it might be with whatever information we're trying to share out.
The aha moments that I've seen with responsive practices are twofold. First of all, I began implementing them last year. It was probably after my second meeting that I had a couple of site coordinators that could not be present for the meeting. And so sharing the agenda out, they were able to read the agenda and literally called me and said, I love this new agenda format. I felt like I was there at the meeting, and I have a couple of questions about some of the things that were discussed. That was huge for me. The second aha moment is going back to the data team meetings that I've been attending last year and this year. It is a night and day, not to overuse a cliche, but it has been a night and day experience to see how the focus and the intentionality has changed from the meetings last year to the meetings this year. I'm seeing PowerPoints at every single meeting. I'm seeing spreadsheets. I'm seeing intentional conversations. It's a shared leadership in the team meetings, and the progress that has been made is huge. And when I first started attending these responsive practice meetings last year, there is no way I could have known or predicted the amount of impact that I would have seen in just a short year's time.